I absolutely love my 1 month stay in Nairobi, Kenya. This vlog will feature my downtown walking tour experience and me visiting the Nairobi National Museum. So if you love history, make sure you stay until the very end to learn a little bit about Kenya's history. I am a solo world traveler, and one of the things I love to do is do a walking tour for two reasons. One, to meet other travelers, and I like to meet the tour guide because usually they're from the country that I'm visiting and they can give me pointers on good restaurants and a little bit of insight on cultural things that I may not have been aware of. We are at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. We're heading up to the helicopter pad right now. And since I was the only person on this tour, I was able to get my own little mini photo shoot and some great videos. And my main takeaways from this tour was learning how Kenya gained its independence. I really was ignorant to it. I never really understand colonialism in Africa until I was really into Zanya and being here. A few years ago, I went to South Africa and learned about apartheid, but it really hits every time I visit a new country in Africa. Another key takeaway for me was how economics work in Nairobi. The tour guide is an engineer. He was telling me that he makes more money giving 5 to 6 tours a month than he would working 40 to 50 hours a week as an engineer. And a lot of that has to do with corporations being owned by non-Kenyans. I didn't realize how many Indians actually are Kenyan nationals. And so he's explaining to me the banking system, the Indian bank and the Kenyan bank. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I am back home and this is my balcony that I love. I sit out here every day, eat my breakfast, dinner out here, and it is morning time and I start my day out on this balcony because I love the view. I'm in the South B Nairobi neighborhood. Good morning. I am headed to yoga. This is my car view as I'm riding to yoga on my street in South B neighborhood. I am in a Bolt, which is one ride sharing app in Kenya. It's similar to Uber in the US. And I am going to Bikram yoga. And it's in the Lavington Westlands area. So it's a little bit of a ways from me in South B neighborhood. One thing I got to get used to in Kenya is the driver's seat being on the opposite side that we have in the US. I will say the Westlands and Lavington area, some of it, the landscaping does remind me of being in Atlanta at times. Not this area, but like when you see certain malls and the red dirt and the hills, it is very reminiscent of being into Atlanta, certain parts of Atlanta. And y'all, I almost died. Okay, I got sweat dripping in my eye. Hot yoga, first time. I did not realize that this session was hot yoga. I need to pay attention and read a little bit better. I thought it was just beginner's yoga. Hour and a half of intensity. I'm going to get myself together, head to the spot, and I'm gonna hop back on and tell y'all what I experienced. After getting myself together, I went to lunch with Mina. I actually met her in a Facebook group, and she's in other vlogs from Kenya, but we went to this rooftop to eat, and I didn't realize it was hot yoga. I thought it was regular yoga. So I really got dehydrated in that class. They had to give me some electrolytes, but I made it out. And the next day, I went to the museum, which is going to be the main staple for the rest of this vlog. I enjoyed my time here. So just kick back and learn, relax and learn some things, and let me know what your favorite thing in this museum is in the comments below. The cradle of humankind inside the Nairobi National Museum features some of the earliest human fossils called Homo rudolfensis. Homo means man. It is believed that these fossils are nearly 2 million years old, and you can see that there is a lot of similarities between the chimpanzee and the Homo rudolfensis. I am not here to start a debate about Darwinism versus the Bible and if evolution is true or not. I did find this information very interesting, seeing the similarities in the features of the chimpanzees and the earliest, what is believed to be the earliest fossils of the Homo man, meaning standing upright. And the museum features a lot of models of what is believed that the people look like from all these million years ago. it is believed that mankind began in Africa about 4 million years ago. So I love learning about this type of information, whether I believe it ought to be true or not. It is interesting to learn. I learned about the cradle of mankind in South Africa when I was doing a hiking tour there, and I believe that is where the earliest human fossils were found, dating back about 4 million years ago. But let me know your thoughts in the comments about the theories behind early human fossils. Again, be kind. I don't want it to be all out war and disparaging comments, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts of all the information that I'm showing. Right now it's showing about lupus and sickle cell and how the blood cells are formed, and it like morphs from malaria and different things like that. Right now, banking, my thing, money, learning about the history of banking in Nairobi, Kenya. The history of banking in Kenya starts apparently with India. The first bank in Kenya was owned and operated by Indians who were lending money, and it just continued to be like more of foreigners owning banks in Kenya. What I was learning. This is interesting necklace of coins, because back in the day there was no such thing as pockets, so there was just a unique way of carrying currency around, and just how the currency has changed in Kenya throughout the years. And I'm not gonna bore y'all with any more money talk. Now let's get to this independence and just learning about Kenyan culture. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Tasha, and if you want to continue seeing more vlogs like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell. The history of Kenya goes through Kenya in 3 phases: pre-colonialism, colonialism, and post-colonialism. So I'm a little disappointed. I was in the first portion of the museum, and I came out because the pre-colonialism section is so small, very small. And just reading all the immigrants that came to what is now Kenya from India, the Arabs coming over, and the Oman Arabs thought they just control all of East Africa. Them battling with British, the map literally saying British East Africa, German East Africa. Yeah, it's a lot. So this part of the museum is talking about Christianity being brought to Kenya and how missionaries were brought in to like be like the social services to make it like a better transition with the schools, and like you becoming a Christian, where you can have access to these things. It reminds me of a book, Things Fall Apart. I'm going to drop that in the frame right now. I read this to better understand the tribes in Nigeria, and reading this area of the museum reminded me of reading that book. This section also talks about how Islam and other religions were, and African traditions were prominent in Kenya before colonialism. So, yeah. This part of the museum is interesting. It's talking about the social and cultural changes that happened with colonialism, and the missionaries brought schools and structure of schooling and being in school so many hours and learning reading and writing. And it's just talking about like what that did to different tribes. So take a look. My apologies for not zooming in on the text, but overall the missionaries did provide education and food and shelter. However, you did have to convert to Christianity, and they did a lot to control and present Britain as superior and to try to erase traditions. Political organizations began to develop with various tribes. I apologize if the word tribe is not proper to use, but the tribes began to unite and work together to overthrow Britain. And this is the part of the museum that talks about this, making weapons to basically rise up and gain independence and take back their land and their traditions. And so this part of the museum is talking about life after independence. This part of the museum is talking about social organizations that were developed in 1965, organizations to promote entrepreneurship, giving loans out, the establishment of the Social Security Fund, the unity between other East African independent country, and tourism. I always point out the fact that there are some parallels in timing and what was going on with Black Americans and what was going on in Africa. Independence 1963 in Kenya, 1965. I just said a push for entrepreneurship, and Jim Crow ended in 1965. Let me know what you think of my visit to the National Museum of Nairobi in the comments below. This section of the museum is about safari tourism and the Big Five. I actually went on an amazing safari, Masai Mara in Kenya, and I have a vlog. Make sure you check that out. The Big Five relates to the top 5 animals that were the hardest for hunters to truly hunt. And now it's turned into, can you see these the top 5, or I should say the hardest animals that were the hardest to hunt back in the day. Part of the museum is all about the circle of life, showing what life is like from youth to adulthood, what traditional marriage outfits look like, and so much more. So take a look with me. In a few moments, I will zoom in so you can read the wording of various ceremonies, like the initiation ceremony, post-initiation ceremony, to demonstrate various phases of young life. The ritual sticks that are shown right now are something that a young man or woman may carry after a post-initiation ceremony. Of the things that I'm reading is related to the Maasai tribe, which is where I did a village tour. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. And it tells you the story of what currently goes on. And this is looking at what the traditional practices were in the past. Area talks about ancestral spirits, and it notes how with colonialism a lot of the practices went away. People thought it wasn't a good idea, so interesting to learn and read about it now. Apologies in advance for any mispronunciations of words, but the different ethnic groups, which we also refer to as tribes in the U.S., they handle death differently and what it means to honor a deceased person. The Mijikendi, which I believe right here, they put up different posts and different symbolism to honor a deceased person. And sometimes ceremonies cannot take place unless a family member has a dream of the deceased person. Masks are not worn by a lot of ethnic groups in East Africa, but this section is talking about masks that is worn for healing and different spiritual ceremonies. Some people may refer to this as witchcraft, like a lot of Black Christians will see this type of imagery and say, oh, that's witchcraft. But I did want to just show this because this is a part of what I was learning in the museum. This area is showing how different birthing and naming ceremonies take place in different ethnic groups and the importance of picking a name and having a name with meaning. That concludes my visit to the Nairobi National Museum. Let me know what you thought about everything that I presented to you in the comment section below. And check out the next Kenya videos on screen. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.